What's up, y'all? Welcome to the video. Today I'll be continuing how to make a survival shooter, and we'll be covering how to set up our heads-up display, as well as connecting some variables between that and our player, such as health and ammo. In the last tutorial, we left off with the implementation for our weapon class, as well as a modified weapon component class, which now utilizes variables from that weapon class and casts out a line trace when shooting, rather than launching a projectile. So without further ado, let's get right into setting up our heads-up display. So for setting up our heads-up display, the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to make a UI folder inside of our blueprints folder, because we can have multiple different types of widgets. We are mainly just going to be using one, but it's good practice to just have this for organization. So in our UI folder, we're going to right-click and create a new, user interface, and we're going to make a widget blueprint. A user widget, and we'll just call this WBP HUD. Now, going into our widget blueprint, there are actually two different modes that we can take a look at. The one that we're in right now is the designer mode, and this is where we show the visuals of our widgets, our heads-up display. And over here, we can have a look at our event graph where we can implement bindings and different functionality for our heads-up display. So first, we're just going to focus on the designer. So if you go right down here into panels, we're going to make a canvas panel. Drag that in there. And should be a decent size. So first thing we're going to want in our heads-up display is our health bar. So we're going to go to progress bar over here. I'm going to drag that out. And we're just going to resize this a little bit to fit onto our screen nicely. And then we're going to go over to our anchors, and we're going to anchor this to the top left. It's like that by default, but a good habit to assign your anchor point on the widget. Okay, next we're going to take a border, and we're going to drag this out to the bottom right. This is mainly just going to be an outline, so it's not hard to see our different widgets and text that we put on there. So first, we're going to go to our appearance, take the alpha value, make it half so it's a bit see-through, and we're going to make that black. Nice. And we'll copy this, bring this over to the other side, just a little smaller. All right, and we're going to anchor this to the bottom left and anchor this to the bottom right. Okay, next thing we're going to want is we're going to want our reticle so that we can actually see where we're aiming and shooting. So we're going to take a image element, I'm going to drag this out here, and we're going to change the appearance, go under brush, change the image to our reticle. And we'll change the size of this. We'll make it 40 by 40. That should be good. And if we anchor this to the middle, now drag this to the middle. That should be good. We can adjust it later if we need. Now, we are going to make some text, and we're going to assign some different values to this. So this is going to be our current ammo. It's just going to be 0 by default, but we will bind this to the actual ammo later. Make another text. This one's just going to be a slash. This won't be changed or anything, just for visual purposes. And we'll put that about there. And this is going to be the total ammo that we have left on our weapon. And we'll just place that right there. Next, we are going to have a indicator for what weapon we have equipped. By default, this is just going to be the pistol. And we're going to add an image to it so that we can have a nice little neat pic of that pistol UI. So pistol UI. And we'll just plop that right in there. Size it up, make it look a little nicer. All right. And there are some other things that we'll do with the HUD, but for now, we're just going to leave it like this. And now that we have our general outline of what our HUD is going to look like, I am going to show you how to implement it in code so that you can get it to actually show up on the player controller. But actually first, we need to make sure that we are anchoring these. Just a good habit to get into. Okay, now we should be good to go into code and start looking at how to enable this for our player controller. Okay, now looking at our code, we're going to go into our character controller header file, and first we are going to pass in a reference to our widget. So first reference to HUD. And this is going to be similar to the way we passed in our pistol class. Except the main difference is that this is going to be a user widget. M_C, let's call this player HUD. Perfect. Now going into our CBP, we are actually going to need another include. This is going to be blueprint / user widget.h. Now, if we go into our begin play, right where we have our equip weapon, we are going to go and do a null check on this. If our HUD is not equal to null pointer, then we are going to add the HUD to our viewport. And the way we're going to do this, we're going to make a new user widget. Let's call this HUD is equal to create widget, user widget. We're going to get a cast to a player controller. We're going to get our controller. And we're going to pass in our HUD class. Perfect. Now that we have our HUD, we're going to do HUD add to viewport, and we're going to pass in 9999, so that is at the top. Okay. And after you let that compile, we are now going to go into our player controller, and we're going to look for HUD. And we're going to pass in our HUD class. Now if we hit play, as you can see, we now have our HUD enabled. And it looks like our reticle is a little bit off from the center. So we're going to slightly adjust it real quick. So if we center that up a little bit more, compile that, save it. And now that's looking a little bit better. Okay, so now that we have our HUD visible and we're able to display it on the screen, we're now going to go and add some different variables to our players, such as our health and ammo, and then we're going to work on binding those to the HUD so that we can get the player some active feedback. So first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make some public fields here. And these are going to be somewhat blueprintable, but they're only going to be able to be read by blueprints. So visible anywhere, blueprint, read only. So we can still edit these. It's a public field in our classes, but blueprints will only be able to read them. And the first thing we're going to want to add is our health, float mf health. And the default for that is going to be 100. I'm going to do the same thing here. But now we're going to add our current ammo and our total ammo. So int current ammo, and the default for that is going to be 0. And then this is going to be total ammo. Also defaulting to 0 because we were about to set these values when we go to equip our weapon, because we're going to make it based off of our weapon class when we initialize this. So first as well, we are going to need a reference to our equipped weapon. And before we do that, we're going to have to add an include up here. Include weapon.h. If we go here and make a weapon, MP equipped weapon. And we shouldn't need to look at this at all in blueprints, so we'll just leave it like that. So now we can go and implement this into our CPP file. So if we go back down into our equip weapon method, we are going to change this up a little bit. So now that we have our weapon class, we can change this from a actor to a weapon. And we are going to get an equipped weapon. And we're going to set this to a cast of a weapon. And it's going to be P pistol. So now that we have our weapon set, we can now use this to set the ammo variables. So our current ammo is going to be equal to our MP equipped weapon clip size. And we're going to do the same thing, but with total ammo, and we're going to set that to the weapon's max ammo. _I max ammo. Perfect. And now that we have that set and we have our weapon class, we can actually rework this a little bit. Now we don't have to try to get a weapon component from whatever actor we're doing. We can just simply set it to our MP equipped weapon, and we're going to set that to our MP weapon component. So now that we have these values, they are not bound to the HUD yet, but we're going to go add a binding to that so that we can get our HUD to be more responsive to our player values. And after you've recompiled that, we're actually going to head back into our HUD class, and we're going to add some bindings to the values that we just made. So first we're going to do our health bar, and if we go over here to progress percentage, is default by 0, and we're going to create a binding there. And what it's looking for is for us to return a percentage. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our player controller, or our player character. And we're just going to leave that at player index 0 since this is single player. You're not going to have to mess with that. To survival FPS character. Cast it to that. And then we are going to get our health. divide that by 100. And now we should be able to display our health. If we go and click play here, you can see now that our health is filled up with blue because we were at full health. All right. Okay, so now that we have a binding for our health, we are now going to bind our ammo values. Starting with current ammo, we're going to go right over here, text, create binding. And we're going to do the same thing we did last time. We're going to get our player character. Cast that to a survival FPS character. And this time we're going to get current ammo. And to text integer. We'll feed this into that. And now we should be able to display our clip size. As you can see, it is set to 8. Last thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to bind our total ammo. So same process here, create binding. Get the character. And cast it to survival FPS. Get our total ammo. And convert that into text. And we're actually going to rename these. We're going to get health. First one will be get current ammo. And get total ammo. There, and now we have both our health and our ammos binded to our HUD. So now we can get some player feedback as we are either losing ammo or we are reloading or whatnot. Okay, so now that we have those values visible in our HUD, we're actually going to start managing our ammo count via shooting and our reloading. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to update our current ammo count whenever we shoot. So update ammo count. And we're going to do character current ammo. It's going to be equal to character current ammo minus 1. And to ensure that whenever we're firing, we are not firing whenever our clip is empty, we're going to check that our clip is not empty. So if character current ammo is less than or equal to 0, we're just going to hit return. So now, if our clips is empty, we won't be able to do anything more. Okay, so now that we have that updating, we're going to go back into Unreal and we're going to test that real quick. And it seems to be updating. And it's not letting us do any more shots either. Perfect. Okay, so now that we have our ammo updating upon shooting, now let's implement our reload logic. So upon reloading, at the moment, we just have it playing our montage. But we want it to update our count after the montage is ended. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to go back into our character header, and we're going to add a U function and this is going to be called void handle on montage end, And we're going to pass in a UNM montage, a p montage, a for argument, and bool a be interrupted. And so what I'm actually making right here is a function to handle on an event call. So once we bind this to the onMontage end event, it'll actually it'll look at this when our reload is done, and we'll be able to update our values from there. So we're going to create a definition there. And if we scroll all the way down, here we have our handle onMontage end. Now, before we do this, we want it to actually register. So the first thing we're going to do is at the top here, we're going to find our events, and we're going to get our mesh1p. We're going to get our anim instance. Dot onMontage ended dot add dynamic. Not that. And it's going to be this, and then we're going to pass in our handle montage method. All right, so now whenever our reload montage ends, this function right here that we have defined at the bottom of our file right here should now be called. And the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make sure that we're actually having the reload montage checked, because this onMontage end event is pretty generic and it'll just check and run anytime any montage from the player ends. So that includes shooting. So what we're going to want to do is check to make sure it's the reload montage. So if ap montage get name contains reload, let's make that lowercase, reload, and our montage was not interrupted, then we can go in here and do this. It should be a dot contains. There we go. So we're going to get the reload montage logic. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure that before we reload that there actually is a weapon equipped, because if they try to reload and they don't have a weapon equipped, then we don't have any ammo to give them or any ammo to distribute, so it could cause some problems there if we don't check that. So check that weapon is equipped. So if our MP equipped weapon is equal to null pointer, we're just going to return. Okay, now we can get into our reload logic. So I'm just going to check how much we need to reload, and then we'll distribute that. So if our total ammo is greater than or equal to our equipped weapon clip size, then we're going to have our total ammo is equal to is minus equal to the clip size. And then our int reload amount is going to be equal to our clip size minus current ammo. And our current ammo plus equals our reload amount. Now, if our total ammo is not greater than or equal to the clip size, then we're going to have our int reload amount equal to absolute value of total ammo minus the current ammo. Current ammo plus equals the reload amount. And our total ammo is then equal to 0. So that should now work, and we want to make sure we check one more thing before we go ahead and test this. On our reload, we want to make sure that it's actually worth reloading before we even do all of this. So I'm going to check if reloading is necessary. So if, and we'll put this on the inside here, if our current ammo is less than P equipped weapon clip size, then we can reload. And our total ammo has to be greater than 0. So we need to be able to reload, so we have to have a not full clip, and we need some ammo to actually redistribute back into our weapon. So if that isn't true, then we shouldn't even bother going through our reload. So that should be good, so we're now going to go back and test that. So we take some ammo out, we reload, and it looks like it did not work. Wanted to make sure that this is not interrupted. And now we can redistribute our ammo. Okay, so now that we have our health and our ammo connected to the HUD, and we also have our reloading logic set up, we're now just going to go back into our widget, and we're just going to make it look a little bit nicer with some of our own assets. So if we start here with our health bar, we're going to go up over into Style, go into Background Image, and we're going to set that to our health bar empty. And we're going to do the same for our fill image, and that is just going to be our health bar asset. Compile that. And if we go back through here, move this around, we're actually going to add another image. And make this another like 60 by 60 perhaps. Click on this, then we're going to go and change this image to our health symbol. And maybe change the sizing of this a little bit. That's looking all right. And then change the color of this. Make it like a nice little blue. Looking good. And we're going to add some text for some UI that we're actually going to include later. So on that like that. And we're going to add some text for our wave count. This is going to come later once we implement our enemy manager. Add some more text to that. And the default for that is going to be 1. And we're going to do the same thing, but for a point tracker, which we are also going to implement later. So we'll set that to points. And we're going to default that to 0. Change the color of this. We'll make it the same color as the others. Keep it consistent. It should be looking pretty good. Now if we go back and test this out. And now we have our health bar, as well as our other UI elements. All right, so we now have our player heads-up display and UI working along with our player health and ammo. Our reload logic is functional, and that should cover everything that we're going to need thus far for the player. That's going to be it for this video, and in the next tutorial, we're going to begin implementing our enemy AI and give ourselves something to shoot at. As always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.